Hey, Shalom Markins, this is Rikar Makabash from GMS London, giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, B'Shem Chachadash. Want to give double honors unto the elders, the apostles of GMS, and Shalom out there to the hopeful one that pushing his truth in all sincerity. If I can get another video, and I'm going to entitle this one AI are the new immigrants, right? Because we know there's a big, issue in the world with these people complaining about immigration as to why they're losing their jobs, why the country is shit. More specifically these Edomites, they're the ones complaining the most. you know, that they're losing jobs and the country's not the same as it was anymore and all that kind of stuff, right? But the truth is, there's a bigger threat at play to your jobs and to the way life to be, right? And that's this technology, man. And this AI, that's developing and progressing, right? That's a much more bigger issue that this place faces. Edomites face Edomites that have no real, no longer have any use to society, right? As well as everybody else. Even these immigrants, they're gonna lose their jobs to AI and stuff like that, right? But people are more open to uh, technology, right? And how easy it makes things for everybody, because everybody's become kind of dependent on technology and become more lazy with technology easily accessible. Now, like we got AI in the phones now, and answers all kind of different questions. Brothers be using it, everyone uses it, and for most people, it's cool, it's cute, right? It's cool, but what ain't cool, or what ain't gonna be cool, is when it's already started, in it. You know, when the AI starts taking over, certain facets of life, and people are gonna find themselves in this precarious situation greater than what they find themselves in now. Where you don't have no, I get like I said, no use, no use in this world, right? These elites, they've invested in all this technology to replace people, right? Because they no longer want or desire to have the burden of supporting you people, right? They want to be free of that burden, right? So they're gonna free you up with all this technology, man. And it's the same cycles that this place goes through. And it starts off all good at the beginning, even with immigration, right? They're helping, you know, fill gaps that we need. We need workers desperate for. NHS over here. Certain industries that you need more workers that you might not want to do, right? So they come and fill the gap, and it's all good to begin with, and things are working good, But then you start, seeing that, oh yeah, wage growth is being stunted, and you know people getting put out of jobs, businesses are closing down, and it's the same thing with this AI. Say technology is going to do the exact same thing, right? So as much as people are mad, might are mad about immigration and these other nations like doing this work, and that hey, like I said, Esau preparing to remove you completely, you know, and only a few particular types of jobs will be around which you're not qualified to do. So what's going to happen? You're going to be living off the dole, okay, or what will be known as universal basic income, okay, which is, like I said, is going to put you in that corner of taking that MOTB. All right, so that's really what's at play at here. This is what's at stake, or however you want to put it. Right, the AI is a technology designed for the elites, by the elites, for the elites, right? To serve them, not to serve the masses of people. Because we're told or made to believe that this type of technology is going to benefit everybody. Okay, when it's just simply not true. All right, but I don't want to make this too long. But let's kick it off, right? Starting in Daniel chapter 12, verse 4 here, right? It says, "But thou, O Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book, even to the time of the end. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased." Right? So, yeah, technology and information and knowledge is has been growing rapidly, over the last, well, 100 years or so, right? Rapidly, compared to the thousands of years that came before it. Technology and that is grown exponentially. right? We're moving so fast now. So this is all part of prophecy. Okay, and this is what gives Esau his confidence, the fact that he's been able to do all of this, even though it's been given to him by on the left hand side, like by the Heavenly Father, right? He believes in the ability that he has to create and use his technology. All right. So yeah, knowledge shall be increased. Okay, so we're living in that age, which becoming a digital age now. It's all been computerized, and say we've got AIs and robots and all these different types of things. All right. And like I said, it's been sold to us like these things is going to help mankind progress even further, right? It's going to it's transhumanism. It's going to help you transcend human limitations, right? Because they paint this world like everybody's going to be, or maybe not as bad as cyberpunk, but everyone's going to be like enhanced humans, and going to be able to do crazy things. But the truth behind the reality of it is that you ain't gonna be able to afford it. You ain't even gonna have jobs to pay for the shit, and it ain't gonna be free. You know what I'm saying? These guinea pigs, yeah, they'll get the free trials. They'll get hooked up with the Neuralink and robot limbs or whatever, because they got quadriplegic and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, the guinea pigs will get all that. Just to get you people used to the idea that these things exist, and they can supposedly help. But it's not there for the masses. How could it be? Like I said, you're not even gonna have jobs to pay for these things in the first place, so that's gonna be out the window, right? But I wanted to read this, slightly, using it in a slightly different way, right? But 2 Ezra chapter 16 verse 21, behold, victuals shall be so good cheap upon earth that they should fit themselves to be in good case, right? With all this technology around, you think, oh, like as it says here, you're a good case. You think everything's looking bright, and this is what Esau kind of like measures his kingdom in a sense, right? People will look at the technology like, oh, we're such an advanced, civilization, we're so intelligent, so smart, but these things ultimately end up being destructive. All these things that Esau's brought into over end up being destructive, right? But this, like I said, people look at that as like, oh, because we're so more advanced than people were, 100 years ago or 200 years ago or whatever, that we've progressed. Like this is like a measurement of progression, all this technology that we got. But it's destructive, man. Right? Like I said, it's not really made for the masses of people. It's a weapon that the elites wield, right, for their own purposes, for their own benefits, right? But like I said, you think you're like, because everything's developing, you think, oh yeah, everything's going great, everything's going good. Everyone's got flat screen TVs and PS5s and cars and electric vehicles, all these different types of things. Phones, mobile phones, AI and shit. Everyone thinks, oh, yeah, this is great, this is amazing. So everyone thinks, yeah, it's all cool. Not knowing that, ultimately all this technology is being developed is gonna be the downfall of, for the common person, not knowing the end of all of this, right? But the elites know what the end is, because that's what they're aiming for, right? Why they promise you things are going to get better. Well, they're looking to make things worse, really. Make things better for them. It always is better for them. But for the common person, no, it always end up worse. All right, so the whole victual shall be so good cheap upon the earth that they shall think themselves to be in good case. So things seem okay, right? Because of all this technology that, we're going to be advanced and overcome this and that and whatever. Right, so even then shall evils grow upon the earth, sword, famine, and great confusion. Right, so realistically, there's no brighter future ahead, right? That these guys are creating. There is no brighter future, right? The one that they envision doesn't really include you living in a better condition, right? The elite see themselves in a better condition, trying to be immortal, all this kind of business. I mean, being wealthy and having access to all the world's resources, unlimited. Like, but you got to be constricted. You got to be, you got to watch what you got to watch what your carbon emissions, right? They want to confine you in small spaces. They don't want you to go on holiday. They don't want you to use planes, and they're looking to restrict everybody, right? So that's the future they envision. The WF laid that out, right? You will own nothing and be happy, right? That's their thing, right? So the future isn't what they paint it to be, right? Of all this technology is going to ultimately work against you, against the people. All right. This is Ecclesiastes chapter 9 verse 12. It says, "For a man also knoweth." Let me see quickly. Yeah, verse 12. "For a man also knoweth not his time, as the fishes that are taken in an evil net, and as the birds that are caught in a snare. So are the sons of men snared in an evil time, which it falleth suddenly. Sorry, when it falleth suddenly upon them." Right. And like I said, people are not really aware of what this all is, or what it all means, or what it's going to lead to. Right. But the elites know, because it's a plan. They've planned this out. They've brought this technology into the world. They've sold it to you. Okay, they know what they intend to do with it. Right? They just need to make you to believe in it. To accept it, to adopt it. And like I said, we all use it. And yeah, it's convenient. Technology makes things easier and more convenient a lot of the time. Right? But how far do you go with it? How much do you trust in it? Right? Because where it's going to lead you to, that path is leading towards is the mark of the beast. Right? The mark of the beast is where it all leads to, man. And you don't understand that's what this is all really all about, man. All this is being created is really to get you to that point to take that mark. So Esau can trap you in his new system. Okay, run by his AI, AI overlords. Okay. So yeah, you don't know that you're stuck in an evil time right now. Okay. It's Daniel chapter 8 verse 25, and through his policy, also he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand, and he shall magnify himself in his heart, and by peace shall destroy many. Right? And it's the same sort of message that's being delivered today. Like all this technology is meant to make us safer, right? It's meant to make us more prosperous. It's meant to, shine a light basically into the future, or the things that we could do. Right? It's meant to be for the benefit of mankind. But like I said, all this technology doesn't generally. It has it's a double-edged sword. It has a destructive element to it. All right, that is, often overlooked. Even though people speak about it, they're like, it ain't really gonna be that. Because this place wants, this world, or these people like to believe that evil doesn't exist, or the world is not inherently evil with these leaders and that, right? They're trusting the leaders. But like I said, these have always been weapons that the rich, the elites have wielded to great effect for themselves. Right? You can't tell all those guys that when they brought in machineries into the workplaces, right? Because Esau basically said we had to mass produce things like on a greater level than before. And you people too slow or cost too much, and we could save money by using the machine. Whatever the reasons and excuses were, you can't tell those people that got laid off and the factory shut down that that technology was good for them. Right? And it's about time to everybody. Well, most people. Right? And there's just not going to be the opportunities there anymore for you to earn your way. And like I said, this is why everyone's complaining about the immigrants, people taking everyone's jobs. But hey, everybody's about to be made redundant in a way. Okay, with all these job losses, man. And Esau ain't gonna make up for it. He ain't gonna create good jobs to replace him with. He ain't gonna provide you with benefits that is gonna offer you to provide you with a half decent life. He ain't gonna do that. Right? He would be cutting benefits with disabilities and all kinds of shit. Like, he ain't looking to try and support you, even though he's gonna force you out of a job with all these policies, all these adoptions and whatever, right? Because they're more concerned about being left behind in competitively. Right? They need to keep up to speed with China and Japan and America and all these different things. They need to keep up to speed, so they don't care about the casualties of the people. And like I said, it's all a plan anyway. So what they are going to offer you though is the MOTB. right? Which you'll receive what you require to survive, right? Because it's going to be implemented in the time of trouble, right? So you're not even going to be concerned about a good paying job because that ain't gonna be on the table anyway. This place is gonna be so messed up. You ain't gonna be thinking about working, all right? But you are gonna be thinking about how can I get basic essentials to survive, right? And they'll offer this, put you on, you know, universal income 2.0 or whatever, whatever it is, because they got what they got over here right now. Because they changed the name of it recently. I think it's I think it's just universal benefits. I think it's called, right? But obviously they got plans to change all that, change all the names, right? They're gonna call it basic income. I think even Elon Musk was trying to sell it off like it was going to be a high basic income or something like that. Really make you think that this government's going to plan to look after you, while they're pillaging the earth. Um, but yeah, I'm gonna read it again. And through his policy, also he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand, and he shall magnify himself in his heart, and by peace shall destroy many. Right. So this really, is being destructive, right? As opposed to bringing peace and prosperity. He shall also stand up against the prince of princes, but he shall be broken without hand. Okay. It's Isaiah chapter 19, verse 14. So the Lord have mingled a perverse spirit in the midst thereof, right? And they have caused Egypt to err in every work thereof, as a drunken man staggereth in his vomit. Neither shall there be any work for Egypt, which the head or tail branch or rush may do. Right? So like I said, people are going to find it harder and harder, man, because things ain't going to be working in your favor. All this debt that these nations got, it only makes sense for them to automate everything. It's cheaper. You know what I mean? They don't want to pay the American worker. They want to pay the British worker. They'd rather get immigrants and pay them, dirt cheap. Build the factories over there and make them worth pennies on the dime. That's what they'd rather. Not that this is the funny thing about it. Even though it's for the sake of saving money, right? But these people go further and further into debt. It's not like they're really making that work. But they are, these CEOs and these heads of these corporations. They're making mega bucks. They're just making larger and larger profits. But people get shafted, as people have always gotten shafted. The wealth gap is continuing to grow larger and larger. So how can we be going, like, if that's the trend going forward into the future? How can the future benefit us? It's only beneficial for the elites. So all this technology is for that reason. It's not going to make you any better off. It's going to make you lazier. You know what I mean? But you're gonna have shit to do because you ain't gonna get no. Hey, I'm gonna have no job to go to. You're gonna have, like, I don't know, however many billion people on the planet fighting for certain particular jobs that AI doesn't particularly do very well. Usually hard labor shit. Low paid shit. There's certain fields in that obviously at the moment they can't do so well, but I guess that'd be a matter of time too, until there is just no place for you in the earth. You are literally just become a burden. You don't contribute nothing to the planet. All these governments, these countries, you don't contribute to nothing. Just pure consumers. But like I said, like, what are you going to be consuming really? You ain't got no money like that. Everything that you're going to be able to do or buy or anything is going to be based on what these governments allow you to do, right? Which again leads us to that mark, right? Revelation 13 and 16, and he calls it all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. You don't have permission to buy or sell unless you have this mark, right? And even then, what you can consume, what you can do, what you can't, that's all going to be controlled. And that's why all this technology is being done, so it can be implemented. It's possible. It can be monitored. It can be tracked. It can be enforced. Before, 100 years ago, that they couldn't do shit like this. Then you got China's got the credit score system thing. That can stop you riding buses and shit if you're not deemed if you don't have a good standing with the country, with the government or whatever, with authorities, then they could deny you access to shit. And then what? You're gonna find it pretty hard to live, man. And this is why the majority of people are gonna take this mark, right? Because you ain't gonna deal without the system, man. Right? You've been too used to the system, and even though you have gripes with it, you have certain issues and problems with it, man. That's all you know. That's all you can see, and that's all you really believe in. So you're gonna go along anyway. Even though this devil is gonna do nothing but oppress you. So again, he calls it all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell save he that had the mark or the number of the beast or the number of his name. Right? So they said you're signing yourself up to take the implantable RFID just to make sure you can get access to things that are in this system. Because without it, you don't have no access to it. It's Matthew 24 verse 10 saying, they shall be offended. So then shall many be offended and shall betray one another and shall hate one another, right? So like I said, all this anger, this animosity is growing, like I said, with the immigrants and stuff, right? But then what about all the AI stuff, bro? What about technology? These men are not getting angry about that. Like I said, it's cute right now, the AI helping them on their phones and shit. Draw me a picture. ChatGPT, answer me this. Write me a script. Answer this equation. Like I said, it has, I guess, uses for certain people in it, and they just find it, a bit of fun, a bit of a gimmick at times, right? But it's there, right? But like I said, they're not really adverse to it coming in, even though it's about to change everything, right? It's about to change everything, man, right? And that's it. It's a bigger threat, really, to them than even these immigrants, man. It says, and then shall many be offended and shall betray one another and shall hate one another, and many false prophets shall rise and shall deceive many. And because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold. Right? Because of the precarious situation, even now, because of now, people are losing their minds, man. Right? Hatred is rising, anger is rising, frustration is rising. Because ultimately, people are finding it difficult. Right? Life is getting harder for them. And so they need someone to blame. They need someone to blame. Right? And then rather than, some people, people do point their finger at the government and stuff like that. But really, because ultimately that's where the problem is related, all these, ridiculous policies that they bring in. But, it's easier to attack the guy on the street. Right? So it's easier to look at each other as enemies, man. Because they're more easily got to than these politicians. You don't really see them, right? But you see, like I say, immigrants working in these different jobs, and so for instance, you got a whole bunch of Eastern Europeans, man. They got a bunch of fucking cafe shops and barber shops and all kinds of things, man. It's like they just got it. Man, I got a business already. Man, I drive Mercedes Benz already. And you got these Edomites out here, they ain't done shit the whole fucking life. For generations, they ain't done shit. And they just come over here, man, and they got they got things, man. So they man are vexed. They're vexed, isn't it? But that's it's supposed to raise that racial tension between peoples, man. Right? It's all part of prophecy. All right, but like I said, AI is it's coming for everybody. All right. It's Ecclesiastes 12 verse 4, and it's the last one on this. So I'm gonna close out with this. Right? It says I'm gonna start from verse 3, right? So in the day when the keepers of the house shall tremble, and strong men shall bow themselves, and the grinders cease because they are few, right? The job losses, lack of jobs, being taken over, right? Like I said, even these immigrants are going to find it difficult, right? And those that look out the windows be darkened, and the doors shall be shut in the street, okay, which we've been seeing, closures of certain stores and stuff like that, right? It says when the when the sound of the grinding is low, you got a low workforce, got no workers, no jobs to work for, right? And he shall rise up at the voice of the bird, and all the daughters of music shall be brought low, right? So, like I said, the AI is going to contribute heavy to this, man. Okay, it's going to contribute heavy to this, man. So if if your government cared, if your rulers cared, right, then make sure that you will looked after first before bringing in any such technology which would put a whole bunch of people out of work, which is already a problem, right? People already got low wages, high rents. Like, this technology is not helpful to the majority of people, right? If we're meant to be, if technology is meant to benefit mankind, then why is it not benefiting the majority of mankind? Why does it only benefit a few, right? And that tells you something, man. Yeah, this world is not about you, man. These elites, they got their own thing going on, right? And they want you to grovel, essentially. They want you to be, um, you know, bow down because of the hell that they're gonna create. You might be suffering, and so like I said, they're gonna offer that MOTB as like a way of salvation, man, to save you from the hell you people will be catching, man. You know. But I'm gonna end it there anyway. Lord, this has been edifying, and I'll catch you brothers and sisters on the next video. Until next time, I say shalom.